I finally called my son Daniel to ask about his wedding date. I expected hesitation, maybe excuses, maybe delays. What I didn't expect was Mira, his wife, answering for him. Her voice was calm, almost casual, but there was something in it that made my stomach twist. "Oh, it already happened," she said lightly. "Yesterday. We kept it private. Only special people were invited." I froze. Special people? Daniel avoided my eyes like a guilty child. Mira's words hung in the air, sharp and casual, crossing a line I didn't even know existed. For 3 years, I had supported them, paid their rent, filled their fridge, bought furniture, helped with car payments, covered emergencies. I even slipped Mira money just in case when she hinted she needed it. And yet, I wasn't special enough to be there for my own son. In my bedroom closet hung a soft blue dress I had bought just for that day. I had imagined standing beside Daniel, smiling proudly, feeling included again. Even my new shoes, carefully chosen to match, now felt absurd, props for a play I'd never been cast in. That night, curiosity gnawed at me. I opened social media. There they were, Daniel and Mira, glowing under warm lights, her parents close by, siblings laughing, glasses raised in celebration. Mira wore the white dress I had helped pay for. Everyone was there. Everyone except me. A week later, my phone rang again. This time, Mira's voice was tight, hurried, almost uneasy. "The rent is overdue. The landlord is threatening eviction. I don't think the transfer went through." I closed my eyes and thought of every sacrifice, every canceled plan, every time I chose them over myself. Then I spoke calm and steady. "Mira, didn't you say you only invited special people?" Silence. For the first time, I wasn't the one panicking. She was. I hung up, unaware that this single moment, this one sentence, was about to change everything. I had no idea that stopping the money would push them to do something far worse than exclusion. The morning after the call, I didn't wake up crying. I felt empty, quiet in a way that was unfamiliar. The house was still. For once, my first thought wasn't whether Daniel or Mira needed something from me. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table where I had spent years doing math for them. Rent calculations, grocery budgets, emergency numbers scribbled in old notebooks. This time, I did the math for myself. I pulled out my bank statements and started adding everything up. $500 a month for rent, 3 years, groceries, furniture, repairs, loans that were never repaid, wedding expenses I was never meant to witness. The number stared back at me, heavy and undeniable. More than $30,000. Money taken from my retirement savings. Money my late husband had worked his whole life to leave me safe and secure. Money I was supposed to use for peace, not to finance 2 grown adults who treated me like an inconvenience. My phone rang. Daniel's name flashed on the screen. Normally, I would have answered immediately, heart racing, hoping for an apology. This time, I let it ring. Then it rang again, and again. When it finally stopped, I took a deep breath and kept drinking my coffee. A few minutes later, Mira called. I didn't answer. Instead, I grabbed my coat and went to the bank. The manager recognized me instantly. He always did. One of his most consistent customers. Consistent transfers, consistent withdrawals, consistent generosity. "I need to cancel all automatic payments," I told him. He looked up, surprised. "All of them?" "Yes, effective immediately." As he processed the request, my phone vibrated endlessly in my purse. I didn't check it. For the first time in years, my money felt like it belonged to me again. When I stepped outside, the air felt lighter, almost hopeful. That feeling vanished when I reached my house. 3 cars were parked in front. Daniel's, Mira's, and one I didn't recognize. My stomach tightened. I could see movement through the windows, shadows crossing my living room. My living room. They still had keys. I stood there for a moment, hand on the door, realizing something painful. They hadn't come to talk. They had come to stop me. I took a slow breath and stepped inside. Daniel sat on the couch, head in his hands. Mira paced the room, phone pressed tightly to her ear. At my dining table sat a man in a dark suit. He was calmly flipping through my papers. My papers. "Oh, good, you're home," Mira said quickly. "We were worried about you." That's when I knew. This wasn't about love. This was about control. And when the man at my table finally introduced himself, I realized they were preparing to take more than just my money. The man in the suit stood up when he saw me staring at the papers spread across my dining table. My bank statements, insurance documents, personal files I had never given permission for anyone to touch. He smiled politely and held out his hand. "Mrs. Richter, I'm Mr. Collins, a family legal advisor." I didn't take his hand. "Why is he here?" I asked. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. Mira stepped forward quickly. Her tone was soft, practiced. "We're just concerned about you. You've been acting differently lately." "Differently how?" I asked. Daniel finally looked up. "You canceled the transfers without telling us. You won't answer our calls. You're pushing us away." I took a slow breath. "I stopped paying your rent. That's not confusion. That's a decision." Mr. Collins cleared his throat. "Sometimes sudden financial decisions at your stage of life can be a sign of emotional distress. Our goal is to make sure your interests are protected." Protected. From what? From myself? Mira reached for my hand. Her eyes were glossy now, almost convincing. "At your age, stress can cause confusion. We just want to help you manage things better, for your own good." That phrase sent a chill through me. For your own good. Mr. Collins slid a thin folder across the table toward me. "This is a temporary power of attorney. It would allow Daniel and Mira to oversee your finances until things stabilize." I stared at the folder. Then I looked at my son. "You want control of my money," I said quietly. Daniel frowned. "Mom, don't twist it like that." "Then tell me," I said, "why you went through my papers without asking." No one answered. Mira's voice hardened. "You're being unreasonable." Something inside me snapped. Not loudly, cleanly. I picked up the folder and dropped it straight into the trash. "No," I said, "you will not manage my life. You will not touch my money, and you will not speak to me like on a problem that needs fixing." Mira gasped. Daniel jumped to his feet. "You can't do this to us. We have bills, responsibilities. You've always helped." "I helped because I chose to," I said, "not because I owed you." Mr. Collins adjusted his tie. "Mrs. Richter, refusing help can raise concerns about your mental capacity." Then Mira said the words that finally revealed everything. "Everything you have will be ours one day anyway," she snapped. "We're just making sure it's handled properly." Handled. Like I was already gone. "Get out," I said, pointing to the door. "All of you." They didn't move right away. But the truth was clear now. This wasn't over. It was only the beginning. And by the next morning, I would learn just how far they were willing to go to prove I was unfit. I didn't sleep that night. Every sound outside my house made my heart jump. A car slowing down, a door closing somewhere down the street. For years, I had felt safest when my son was nearby. Now, his presence was the very thing that frightened me. By morning, I knew one thing for certain. I couldn't afford to hesitate anymore. The first call I made was to a lawyer, not a family advisor, not a friend of a friend, someone whose only responsibility was to protect me. I laid everything out: the money, the wedding, the surprise visit, the papers spread across my table. He listened quietly. When I finished, he said something that made my hands go cold. "What you're describing may qualify as elder financial abuse." Hearing it out loud felt unreal. That was something that happened to other people, people on the news, not to me, not by my own child. By noon, my locks were changed. By evening, my bank accounts were secured. Passwords reset, access restricted. For the first time in years, no one else could touch what was mine. I thought that would slow them down. I was wrong. 2 days later, there was a knock on my door. A woman stood outside holding a clipboard. Her expression was professional but cautious. "I'm from Adult Protective Services," she said. "We received a report expressing concern about your well-being." I didn't need to ask who had filed it. Inside, she asked gentle but direct questions. Had I been confused lately, forgetful, making irrational financial decisions? Was anyone influencing me? I answered calmly. I showed her medical records, bank statements, written proof of years of financial support, and the sudden pressure to hand over control. She took notes, a lot of them. When she asked if I felt threatened, I hesitated. Then I told the truth. "Yes," I said, "by my own family." The visit lasted less than an hour. Before she left, she looked me straight in the eye. "You seem very clear-headed. If anything changes, call us immediately." That evening, my phone exploded. Voicemails from Daniel, angry at first, then desperate. Messages from Mira swinging between apologies and accusations. "You embarrassed us. They think we're monsters. We were only trying to help." I didn't reply. I watched the sunset from my living room and realized something painful but freeing. They weren't afraid for me. They were afraid of losing access, and once the system started paying attention, their story was already falling apart. But desperation makes people reckless, and their next move would be the most dangerous one yet. Their final move came quietly. No shouting, no dramatic confrontation, just silence. Days passed without calls, without messages, without surprise visits. At first, the quiet made me uneasy. I kept expecting another knock at the door, another official, another attempt to paint me as incapable of managing my own life. But nothing came. Instead, I received a letter. Not from Daniel, not from Mira, from my lawyer. He explained that after the investigation, there was no basis for further action, no evidence of mental decline, no justification for financial control. If anything, the report raised serious concerns about the pressure placed on me by my family. They had been warned, strongly. Shortly after, Daniel showed up one last time. No keys this time. He stood outside, hands shoved deep into his pockets, looking smaller than I remembered, older, tired. "You really did it," he said quietly. "You chose money over us." I shook my head. "No, I chose dignity." He scoffed. "So what now? You're just gonna live alone?" I looked past him, at the street, the sky, the life that still belonged to me. "I was already alone," I said. "I just didn't admit it." He left without saying goodbye. That was the last time I saw my son. And strangely, I didn't collapse. I mourned, yes. Not the man he had become, but the boy he once was. The child I had loved without conditions. The child who had learned, somewhere along the way, that love could be measured in money. With time, my days began to feel lighter. I reconnected with friends I had neglected. I traveled. Small trips at first, then longer ones. I laughed without checking my phone. I slept without fear. People often warn you that setting boundaries will leave you alone. They don't tell you how peaceful that solitude can be. I learned something important through all of this. Love should never require self-destruction. Support should never come with ownership. And respect should not disappear the moment money stops flowing. I didn't lose my family that day. I lost an illusion. And in its place, I finally gained my life back. Sometimes the bravest thing a parent can do is walk away and choose themselves for the first time.